Well, Samoa is a Pacific island nation made up of 9 islands and with a population of just 218,000 people. King Charles will be staying in a small village on the south coast, down from the capital Apia, called Sumu, where more than 1,000 people reside. With me is our reporter Vandhna Bhan. Vandhna, you are from this part of the world. I won't ask you why on earth you're choosing to live in London, but that's a separate conversation. Just tell us, what are you hearing about the sort of preparations and the reception for this royal visit? Because obviously the royals have had a bit of a trickier time in Australia, haven't they?
Yeah, well, this is a big moment for Samoa, actually, as it is for any Pacific Island nation when the royals visit. There's an element of celebrity fanfare when the royals come, and so they are very warm towards the royals. Unlike perhaps what we saw in Australia. There is, in fact, so-and-so, the chief of the village, Sumu, says he'll be bestowing a title on the king, a chiefly titled called Tiu Tau Mesina, during a traditional ceremonial welcome. So a very warm welcome for the king. In regards to the preparations, we've seen some of the preparations there, but they're taking security very seriously as well. In the village of Sumu, the men have been called in to enforce nightly curfews in the village while the king is there, and that's not uncommon in Pacific Island nations. But also in the months leading up to this event, police officers did a gun amnesty, and hundreds of guns and unlawful ammunitions were actually traded in for roughly 15 pounds of food vouchers. So there's been preparations going on for some time. They're taking it very seriously. As many leaders are saying, this is Samoa's time on the global stage. You know, we might see the king and queen strolling down some beautiful beaches through some gorgeous sceneries, and many are hoping that that's really going to boost Samoa's tourism and economy.
Obviously, climate change is a key issue in this part of the world. But is reparations, as we've seen that issue debated, for example, in the Caribbean, is that an issue here?
I think, like we saw the heckling in Australia, we might not see the same thing in Samoa. In terms of reparations and the anger in Samoa, that's more towards climate change, like you mentioned, and as it is for other Pacific Island nations, so there might be some climate protesters. But in terms of the slave trade reparations in the Caribbean that we've seen and the calls for an apology, it's key to note that Pacific Island nations and Samoa don't necessarily share the same slave trade history as those nations. And I can say that for myself as a Fijian Indian, that my ancestors and other Fijians didn't go through that. Rather, it was labourers, which is a much more forgiving idea. So not necessarily going to see that, but that's not to say that settlers and settler violence didn't occur in these countries. We can't forget that. There were the Germans in Samoa, followed by the Brits and New Zealand did actually apologise for some of the events that happened during their rule in Samoa.
Well, Vandhna, if you're going back home on holiday, I'm coming with you. The pictures look amazing, and from what you've told us, it sounds gorgeous. Thank you so much for being with us.